Imagine, if you will, the fifth floor of the Maryland State Department of Education. Our division is called the Division of Curriculum, Assessment, and Accountability. So get the picture. Gray cubicles for as far as you can see. My office is on the same floor with the offices of the other content areas. And fortunately, I have fantastic windows, and I often sit in my office and think about advocacy. I wonder, is science advocating? Is math, social studies, English language arts? I wonder it all the time. What's happening for us that we're in this position of advocacy? Is it the historical piece about the art's place in society? It's 2016, it can't be that, right? We have the data, we have the research. I was going to share research this evening, and then I realized that it would be beyond preaching to the choir. It would be like cheerleading to the cheerleaders. I know a lot of people in this room, and they're really smart people. And it made me wonder when I was invited to give this chat, what would happen in our lives if we could dedicate the energy we spend to advocacy to other things? I think in this weekend with this group of people, we could have taken care of global warming, right? What I've witnessed, however, and this is what I really want to talk about tonight, is that our own narrow view of what we bring to the world, even at our most enthusiastic moments, limits the value that others place on what we do. In education, sadly, what we assess becomes what we value, and what we value becomes the stories we tell. We have terrific, all-encompassing assessments like those created in the National Core Art Standards, which require commitment of time and energy, and I hear from teachers that sometimes they feel like they just can't afford the kind of time and energy to invest in those assessments. We have also required assessments, models like student learning objectives, SLOs. An assessment that's built as a snapshot of numbers of students and of student achievement. As I go around talking to teachers in Maryland, what I'm learning is that, unfortunately, in a reductive manner, we are assessing students' ability to accurately replicate a brushstroke in visual art, or how they phrase a particular 8 measures of music, or the height and alignment of a grand jeté. So, while the skill-based approach is important to us as arts educators, in the bigger scheme of a school's culture, incrementally increasing a student's knowledge in any of these activities isn't what my grandmother used to say, worth a hill of beans. And then let me be clear about this. I am a huge believer in arts discipline-specific teaching and learning. I love teaching technique. At one point in my life, I may have even been considered a pretty good technician. But here's what we have to come clean about. At this moment in history, our schools are filled with young people who have no food at home, who have to dodge drug dealers or step around bodies on the street to get to their school buses. That's a real story, by the way, that a former student told me. Or, on the other end of the spectrum, who have a well-supplied medicine cabinet that feeds any possible problem. So why in the world would we think basic arts outcomes connected to assessments, which become the story of our art form, hold any value outside of our classrooms? And we have confirmed with our administrators that what we value is not connected to the reality of the school culture. Administrators see what we do. They have conversations about what we're working on with our students. They appreciate the skills, and then they walk away from those conversations to deal with an urgent call about a student's heroin addiction, or break up a fight in a hallway, or develop an anti-bullying campaign. There's a disconnect between the reality of day-to-day life and the way we value what we're teaching in our classrooms. The big secret is that what we uniquely do for kids positively influences every school. So the question is, how do we connect the incredible learning that's happening in our studios to concepts that have value beyond our art form? Not to diminish the art form and not to dismiss the art form, but to extend the art form. Dance has changed every life in this room, but I'm suggesting that our lives were changed in ways that are significant and meaningful, way beyond the height of our grand jeté. And thank God, because I don't know about you, but my grand jeté is not what it used to be. And still, I reap the benefits of my dance education every day. When I was a kid, my parents decided that it would be a good idea to send me to Polish school. I come from a big Polish family. So it was the 70s. Alex Haley just published Roots. Everybody was scrambling to figure out where we came from. They thought I should go to Polish school. So every Saturday morning I would go to Polish school. And I heard in the very first class, drifting down the hall, this music. And I went to investigate. At the same time the Polish language class was meeting, the children's Polish folk dance group was rehearsing. Now, because this is being recorded, I'm not going to disclose how many weeks I let go by where my parents thought they were sending me to language class, but they were really sending me to dance class. And I fell in love. I was, and continue to be, enamored by the movement and the music and the costumes. And this thing went off in my brain that only years later I could figure out. While I was dancing the complex patterns and phrases on stage, I began to develop the ability to see it from the front of the house simultaneously. And then someone told me that that's called being a choreographer. And then I discovered, lo and behold, that I could go to university and study this thing called choreography. My father said when I told him this, I don't know what a choreographer is, but I just hope he makes money. So you see, in about 3 years, so that would have made me 14, 15 years old, I was asked to direct that Polish folk dance company. Now, in hindsight, that's probably child abuse. To dump that kind of responsibility on a 14 or 15-year-old kid is ridiculous. But it gave me a foundation. It allowed me to find my way through the world. So the dancing was the foundation, but all of this other stuff began to occur for me, and it laid a path out for me. It allowed me to know how I could walk through my life. 3 weeks ago, I adjudicated for the Maryland Council for Dance Festival. So I'm sure you know the routine. 45 students in the room, the adjudicators stay, the students stay, and a modern teacher comes in and teaches a phrase, then a jazz teacher comes in, and then a ballet teacher, and you're adjudicating, right, as the same kids you're adjudicating. Number 42 was a 12-year-old boy who reminded me so much of myself. And right in front of my eyes that evening, I watched him consume the movement. I watched him change. His level of confidence, his demeanor changed right in front of me as he would accomplish one phrase and another phrase and another phrase. So the adjudication was over, And I said, all the students come up and are very polite and thank the adjudicators. And I said, number 42, can you come up here for a moment, please? And so white t-shirt, black tights, comes to the front of the room. I said, I am here from 43 years in your future to give you a message. And the message is this: you are going to have a fantastic life. And I want you to say yes to every opportunity. And then he didn't know what was going to happen. And so I said, that's it, thank you very much. And he ran as fast as he could out of the room. But I had the confidence to communicate that to him because I saw him making the same discoveries in this magnificent art form of ours that I made all those years ago. I knew that by watching him learn in this particular way, that he was setting himself up for a life that he cannot imagine. And I know that all of you agree with that sentiment because the same thing occurred for you. So, those same feelings appear for me these days in my role at the State Department as I facilitate the writing of new state standards or navigate 5 meetings a day, all with a different objective, or prepare the keynote speech for the National Dance Education Organization. Last year, I visited all 24 Maryland school districts and about 350 classrooms. One of my requests for a district visit is that I have time with just me and students. The teachers and administrators, they can sit in the back, but I ask them not to participate in the conversation. I've learned more from those conversations than you can imagine. I always ask the same question to start. Why is this arts education thing important? Who cares? Here's the big news that I want you to take away tonight. Never, not one time, did a student raise his or her hand and say, it makes me a better clarinetist, or a better sculptor, or a better actor, or a better dancer. Never, not one time. And I have asked this question from the students in the wealthiest county in Maryland, PS, which is the wealthiest county in the United States of America, and in our poorest county, where they deal with poverty in a way that you can't even believe that you are in the United States of America. And the answers are all the same. And I want to share a few of them with you tonight. This is my family. We really care about each other. I feel safe here. It's where I come to find relief from my day. We really listen to each other in a way that we don't in other classes. We know how to work together without even talking about it. We just get things done. My ideas become something else here. I get to figure out who I am in this class. We can talk about our work and talk about each other's work, and it's okay. This is the class I come to school for. We have a lot of freedom as long as we're getting our work done. It's like we're trusted here. When you analyze the statements of these students, you will find that they align squarely with what we now call 21st century skills. In fact, recently a Maryland group of arts educators convened to devise assessments of 21st century skills through the arts. Stay tuned about that. I love sharing information. As soon as it's clear with this group, I'll let you know about it. Here's the $65,000 question. Why are we assigning value to skills that are only the vehicle to the whole student learning that's happening right in front of us? Why are we not telling the story our students tell us if we just take the time to ask? And by the way, I am right hereby granting you permission. When you go home, sit down on the studio floor with your students, take a day off technique, and ask them why dance education is important to them. Their answers will change your life, as their answers have changed mine. When speaking to our administrators and deans and parents and legislators, what if we began telling the story that what we're really doing for our students is holding the space for them to explore their creativity? That we're offering them opportunities to collaborate, placing them in situations that require the development of excellent communication skills, and that we place them squarely in a loop of constant critical thinking as they reflect and refine and persevere. They're telling us that we're teaching them these skills. We have the ability to acknowledge what they're saying and to hold this information up in the light for everyone else to know. That's our job. That is our job. This simple shift in what we value and what we share will remove the anxiety that we heard last night about how dance fits into ESSA. This new version of our story allows all of you to check all of the boxes on your grant application, not just select ones. You can check every box. This story will move people to seek out and fund what we do because they will know we are teaching the skills that are needed in a 21st century world. Polish dancing was my childhood vehicle to deeper understandings about myself and the world around me. Number 42, he could suspend quasi-devant with the confidence of Baryshnikov, and that same confidence is going to carry him through his entire life. Advocacy often feels like we're beating our heads against the wall because we're trying to convince someone to value something that they don't value. Instead, let's align arts education with the undeniable story of whole student development. The evidence of the value of dance as an art form resides in our bodies and is communicated by our students in each and every gorgeous plie and breath-filled high arch. The beauty of what we bring to the world through dance cannot be more obvious. Dance is everywhere. Trust that. Trust our art form. It's not going anywhere. This is the time to shift our message to what is not as obvious as a grand jeté. It's time to look beyond the art form. Instead, let's look at the art form as a vehicle for growing good human beings. It's time to tell the story of what's truly occurring. Deep, deep learning in the bone marrow of our students, learning at the cellular level that is changing the way young people move through the world, literally and figuratively. Tell your stories, the real stories of what you are doing in your studios, so that everyone values the enormous positive effect you are having on our world. I'm humbled by this experience. Thank you.